Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Rapid Results with Andrew Weiss. We have an amazing, incredible guest today, Harrison Coley. And in case you don't know who this Harrison guy is, he's a social media marketing and monetization wizard. He has hundreds of millions of views, millions of followers, and millions in revenue generated for clients. He lays the tracks for out-of-this-world client acquisition results through authentic messaging, honest advertising, and retention-based funnels. His background's in demand generation, funnel design, monetization systems, conversion optimization, content creation, sales, project management, team building, white glove service, and community outreach. And today we're going to be talking about how to run a $100,000 Instagram account. So Harrison, tell us, what's the biggest and best business deal you're most proud of?
Andrew, you're going to make me blush, man. That's quite the introduction. So thank you for that. The biggest and best business deal I have done or been a part of, well, I think it depends on what you measure on, right? There's a lot of really interesting things we've done. Like we helped a good friend of ours go from 30,000 followers on Instagram to over 1 million followers on Instagram in less than 6 months. And that was a great opportunity. It was an awesome case study. It was a really fun project. Selfishly speaking, probably the moment for me that made me go, this Instagram business is real and building a business on Instagram is possible, is we had a client, and unfortunately I can't disclose their name publicly, but they wired us $500,000 for a 6-month contract with us. And so it was like we had outlined the contract and it was just about $100,000 a month. And they go, well, what if we pay you in full? And we're like, what do you mean pay us in full? And they're like, we could just wire you $500,000 if you give us there's a marginal discount on that. And we said, yeah, we'll take the $500,000. And when that wire cleared, I was like, oh, we're not just making posts on Instagram anymore. This is a legitimate business. So that was probably like the standout, crazy highlight impact moment so far in my business.
That's super awesome. I love this. I like to use the analogy. This is like Superman on top of the mountain. Just like I did this. This is amazing. But yeah, and I'm guessing you didn't come out of the womb knowing how to do this, Harrison.
No.
And so let's rewind and retrace the steps a little bit about this journey. Like, how the heck do you go from a kid from a small town in Colorado to being wired $500,000 by the time you turn 25? Like, tell us more of that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was actually before I turned 23. Is the best part
even
about
better.
that deal.
Okay, even better. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always had a philosophy in life of just doing things. I tend to, it's very easy for me to get overwhelmed when I think 5 to 10 steps ahead. But when I focus on what's right in front of me, I'm a very hard worker. I love to just get involved in things and put everything into it. There's a certain feeling of presence that I get when I'm just involved in a project. And so I just kind of chase that, for lack of a better word, I just chase that feeling. And so originally that started in photography. My neighbor was a professional photographer, and I ended up deciding not to go to college for law. So I said, well, what can I do right now to be productive and to do something? And I said, hey, if I can carry your camera equipment everywhere, will you show me how to take a good photo? And that led into learning photography, which led into me playing with websites and building websites, which led to paid advertising. Advertising led to social media. And so I've just always kind of followed that curiosity of what is the skill set that I can learn that is worth my time? It's interesting to me, and it's also valuable to other people.
Oh, I love that. So let's dive in a little bit into creating a $100,000 Instagram account. You and I were talking. You're like, Andrew, I'm really good at making people money on Instagram. I'm really good at helping people go viral. And so I know everyone's always wondering oh, how can I make money on Instagram? How can I make money on Instagram? And I do only help people who are already doing $1 million a year in business. Do you help people from scratch? People are like, okay, how do I make $100,000 on Instagram? What do you say? Or where do you start?
Yeah, obviously the hardest part of anything is going from 0 to 1, right? Mm-hmm. That's where you have to break the moment of inertia. That's where you encounter the most friction. The analogy I like to use is for a spacecraft to take off. Like if we're flying to the moon, if we're flying into space, 80 or 90% of all the fuel is used just getting off the ground.
Wow.
And so that is the same thing with social media. Generally, where we specialize and we get the best results is for existing business owners with brands on other platforms. So someone that has already built up a following on Twitter or built up a following on YouTube, they understand this world and they already have an offer. That being said, if I wanted to go from $0 to $100,000 in revenue in, let's say, 6 months or a year on Instagram from nothing, right? If I want to go
Wow.
from scratch all the way up in a short amount of time, what I would focus on is having a very clear offer for a very clear type of person. And when people, I think we throw around these words like offer and ideal client profile quite a bit. All it really comes down to is what is the result that I help this type of person get? And that's really as simple as it gets. It's like, what is the result that I want to help someone create right now? And anything's a result, right? Like taking a bed from being messy to making the bed, that's a result.
Wow.
Cleaning the dishes in the sink goes from dirty sink to a clean sink. That's a result, right? And anything's a result, right? So if I wanted to have, 10 people that are all amazing entrepreneurs and interesting individuals around my dining room table, going from no people at the table to a table full of cool people, that's a result.
Yeah.
And so I would get very clear on that. And then what I would do is I would make content talking to that type of person. And I wouldn't say, hey, please come join me for my dinner, or please let me do your dishes. I would just make content about like, hey, did you know that having dirty dishes in your sink leads to XYZ health impacts? Or dirty dishes in your sink indicates this type of issue. If I wanted to have a bunch of people over for dinner, I could use the examples of, I'd probably be like, hey, did you know that most entrepreneurs are lonely? Did you know that most entrepreneurs only know 3 other people as successful as they are? Did you know that someone that's more connected, like I would start making content about these types of the pain points, right? The problems underneath the problems. So instead of saying, oh my gosh, like let me come clean your sink, pretty please, or come to my dinner, pretty please, I would say, hey, here's the impact that this current situation is having on your life. Here's what's possible with a different solution. And so $0 to $100,000 on an Instagram, I'd be very clear who I'm talking to. I'd be very clear about the outcome that they want in life. And I'd make a ton of content about their current reality. So instead of saying, I can create this, I can create this, I can create this, I'd just say, hey, did you know that dirty dishes in the sink create this issue? Did you know that not coming to dinners and working 18 hours a day by yourself creates these problems in your business? And I'm just going to focus on that, because the more I focus on their current reality and the problems associated with their current reality, the higher likelihood that I will demonstrate expertise and understanding to a point where I will build the trust necessary for them to buy me or to pay me some amount of money to do something.
Oh, I love that. And so, I mean, when we talk about $100,000 Instagram accounts, so like a lot of people listening in, a lot of them are authors, for example, and they have like a $20 book or $30 book. Like, are you able to make 100 grand selling a $20 or $30 product, or does it have to be high ticket per se?
No, I don't think it needs to be high ticket. I think the approach would change, right? So if I'm selling something that's, let's say, $5,000 to $10,000, I only need 10 to 20 sales.
Yeah.
And so I don't necessarily need to focus on going viral. I don't necessarily need to focus on volume. If you're selling something worth 10 grand and you want $100,000 in revenue, I can just message people that can afford me. I don't even need to make a ton of content. I can just reach out to those people and say, hey, I do this thing for this type of person. Can I help you? That's how I made my first 100,000. Is I just found the people that I wanted to work with that could afford my services. And I said, hey, I would love for you to give me money to do this thing. Are you down?
Yeah. Love that.
And I mean, it was effective for me. Now, if you're going from $0, but you have something less expensive, let's say you're writing a book and it's $30, the value in creating content is the exponential and outside return that you can generate off of a piece of content. So you probably wouldn't be able to see my screen if I showed you. But if I make a post, let me see if I can just give you a good post as an example. If I make a post, even with this post has this video only has 3,000 views on it. So I've got a post with 3,000 views on it, but this post has 6 hours and 50 minutes of watch time, which means people have spent about 7 hours watching this video, and it's only got 3,000 views. And it only took me probably 10 minutes to make it. And so I get to look at this piece of content and say, well, it took me 10 minutes and I generated 7 hours of engagement.
Yeah.
And I really love that statistic or that metric of watch time, because it makes me realize of like, okay, even if this reaches a smaller audience, all I want to do is have a higher watch time than the amount of time it took me to make the piece of content. If I can keep that ratio there, I'm super happy with the piece of content. So if I had, let's say, a $30 book, what I would be focused on is like, well, where can I talk about my $30 book, or where can I talk about this piece of art that I've created, where the most amount of eyeballs will see it, and they will not only spend, like, not only can I reach the most amount of people, but I can get them to spend the most amount of time possible learning about my book and creating interest around my book, creating curiosity around my book. So with a $30 thing, I would definitely be a lot more focused on going viral, making posts in community channels, making posts and building curiosity on different platforms like Reddit, different platforms. I would even be commenting on other book series on Instagram or other book content on Instagram. Like, well, if you liked this, just wait for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be definitely a lot more like, because you can't, to make $100,000 with a $30 book, you're not going to be able to have one-on-one conversations.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to spend an hour on a sales call convincing someone to buy a $30 book.
Yeah.
So you have to go the volume route. You have to go volume. And so it'd be a ton of content oriented around going viral. And then I would set up automated sales systems like a ManyChat system. So anybody that comments on a post or follows your account, you send them an automated message that says, hey, I've written this book. Would you like to have it?
Yeah, I love that. And then so I think another issue is that, it seems like Instagram has had a huge fall off of users. You see countless profiles with 100,000 followers, and then they make a post and they get like 2 likes and 200 views or something like that. What would you say is, how much of that is Instagram's fault versus the user's fault? Curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah. As far as I'm aware, and I'd like to think I'm pretty involved in this space, Instagram is not decreasing in users. Like, they haven't had a huge drop off in terms of monthly active users. I know that in 2025, the monthly active users on Instagram was like 1.5 billion monthly active users.
Wow. Okay.
So that's like almost a quarter of the whole world.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't consider the platform to be the issue. I think it's very easy to blame the platform because then we don't have any responsibility.
Yeah.
No, I think what happens is, and there's 2 situations, is someone goes viral for a specific thing, or they build a following off of a specific thing. Let's say, like, there were certain political and things happening in the world in 2020 that everybody was talking about in 2020. It was highly relevant in 2020. If I built a business, or if I built an audience or following on Instagram talking about those things in 2020, people probably don't really care about my opinion in 2026 about what we're doing next. And so it's hard to pivot an audience when you've built up a reputation talking about something. The other side is maybe someone's just running ads. Maybe they're just selling a bunch of stuff to their audience. Like, I've seen plenty of accounts, to your point, that have 100,000 followers. They get 30 likes a post, if that, but they don't really care because they're just selling something direct to their audience.
Yeah.
And so it's not about brand engagement. It's not about community. It's not about a loyal following. It's just whether or not this person will convert and buy my thing.
Got it. No, that makes sense. And then, so for people who, so let's say the average Instagram user, you probably know these stats at the top of your head, but do you think the average Instagram user has like 2,000 followers? Is it 500 followers? Like, how do you know if you're doing good, just like pure audience reach wise?
I have no idea what the average Instagram user following is. But that's a great question. I know that to be in the top 1%, the average Instagram personal account has 264 followers.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
So if you have 264, you're probably doing just fine. On a business account, average following on a business account is 3,467. These are according to Google.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah.
But I'm not surprised by that at all. I know to be in the 1% of creators on Instagram, you post, I believe it's 10 times a month, and you're in the top 1% of creators.
Wow.
So it doesn't take a ton to put yourself in a different league.
Yeah. Well, and so I know like the saying is I think Ronnie Coleman's the one who phrased it. He's like everyone wants to look strong and look huge, but no one wants to put in the work and actually lift weights. And so like when you're talking about like, hey, yeah, if you want to make $100,000 on Instagram, you got to actually put in the work to message these people and build book calls or figure out how to put systems in place to have mass volume. It seems like in the industry as well that I come from, it's like, oh, you have to do 50 reach outs a day if you want to sell high ticket courses. And I'm curious, like, have you found that's the same? Or you're like, honestly, Andrew, if you just put in 15 minutes or 5 reach outs a day, that'd be good too. Or like, do you have to quote unquote put in the work of like 50 or bust in order to be successful?
I'm going to mention a couple of things that may
Yeah.
seem contradictory. It's simple, it's not easy. And that applies to everything in life. It's simple, not easy. But then I believe it was Pythagoras who said, give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum in the right place, and I will be able to lift the world. And so there's an element of things that is leverage. Like sending one-to-one messages on Instagram is pretty low leverage. But you can do it and it can get results, right? It's just one-to-one. It's the same thing as like cold calling. I know people that make tens of thousands of dollars per month cold call for a business. And it works. It's just not the most effective way.
Yeah.
And so when we look at like paid ads or organic content on social media, you're just playing at a game where there's a potential for higher leverage because you can get 10,000 people to watch something that you only had to make once instead of making 10,000 phone calls.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there's a downside of that. Like you have to have social skills. You have to be presentable. You have to be talking about something interesting and relevant. You have to understand psychology and how to trigger an audience. So there is nuance of social media is not this golden ticket that anybody can use. And I think we're coming off the back end of this expectation that if I just post on Instagram as a business owner, it'll 10x my business. That's not real. Social media is as hard as anything else in business is. Like to say that running a accurate accounting on my business is easy would be delusional. It's very tricky to make sure that all your numbers are right. To manage employees is challenging. The same thing is true on social media. The trick is social media is much more like investing where you're building an asset that can compound over time. And so I look at it of like my fitness, my social media, and my investment strategy are all things that even if I invest just $1 a day into the market over 10 years, that compounds. If I just make even a mediocre post every day over a year, over 10 years, that will compound.
So
that's
mediocre post
I
around a
think
theme of wanting to sell to your target audience, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's like if I just add value to the world, if I just make a post every day, even if I get no sales over a year of making a post every day, as long as I'm committed to doing the habit, which is sustainable to me, I can guarantee you in a year I'll be more comfortable talking on camera. I'll be more articulate in the way that I communicate, and I'll most likely have a lot more clarity if I'm paying attention and allowing for feedback on who I'm talking to and how I can speak.
Yeah.
So even business aside, speaking to a camera is generally going to be you're aiming in the right general direction. And so even if I'm not building a perfect funnel on the back of my Instagram, you're at least in the general trajectory. And then off of that, if you can get very specific in terms of who you're talking to, what you're selling, as I mentioned before, that's where you can really start to systemize the process and allow for more of a systematic growth of the business side.
No, I love that. It's just, and so that is an interesting thing you said too. You're like, even if I didn't make a single sale after posting every day for a year, that wouldn't worry you at all about your offer or your ICP or any of that because you have the skill sets. But isn't it also good to have an offer that converts?
Yeah, that's definitely the goal. If you're making a piece of content about your business every day and you're not getting any sales, that's absolutely feedback. And so that's feedback so if let's say you're already running a multi-million-dollar business, it's just not a business that you're running on Instagram. You already know the product works. You already know that the your user base on the business that's actually working. You're saying, hey, that works. Like there's no doubt in my mind that my business has product market fit, that has an ideal client profile. I'm just ineffective in communicating to them because I'm not getting sales on Instagram. So if you already have evidence that this thing works, well, maybe you're just not communicating that effectively on the platform. Versus, and I see this a lot with like health coaches or life coaches or spiritual coaches, uh, people that, if, even fitness coaches, like I find a lot of the time if you're trying to create an intangible result for someone, which is very different than a B2B product or service, if you're offering something that's intangible, if you make a post every day and you have zero clients anywhere else, then absolutely you should be testing a different communication style on what if I offered this? What if I offered this? What if I communicated it this way? What if I spoke to this person instead of this person? Because there's an element of, especially when starting a new business, you don't know what works. You don't know who you're selling to. You don't know what you offer. But the only way to find out those things is go ask people if they want what you want or want what you're offering and see if they say yes or no. That's how I started. Is I just knocked on doors. I just sent messages. I picked up the phone and called and I said, hey, I do this thing. Do you want it? And when I would get yeses, I would say, awesome, I'm going to do more of that. And when I got told, no, I don't want that thing, I would just say, okay, awesome, let me go call someone else and see if they want something different.
No, and that I like that a lot, and that reminds me too. I want to ask, what are some of the more broad client profiles of people you've worked with? Like, so you gave you said intangible. I would think like a wellness or fitness coach is tangible. It's like, hey, I'll help you lose 10 pounds in 30 days or something like that. I feel like that's kind of tangible, but let's say, for example, a life coach or a business coach. A business coach, I guess, could be tangible, making more money. But let's say life coach, like I want to help improve your life. Does it have to? Life coaches, do they have to say, "Oh, I only help women who are in North Dakota who like dogs"? Like how, like how vague or specific would you give a life coach if you were working with one?
Yeah, that's usually where we start with our clients, is making sure that they have a tangible outcome or
Mm-hmm.
measurement of success. Because this also impacts the client, right? Because the client wants to have an outcome. Everybody
Yeah.
wants to transform or to go from their current state to their desired state. Like everybody has a pain island and a pleasure island, and everybody wants to go from one to the other. So getting clear on what the ideal outcome looks like or the result that we achieve is super important. I mentioned fitness coaches because a lot of fitness coaches, they'll say, oh, I'll help you lose weight or I'll help you get in better shape. Okay, well, what does that actually mean? Like, I could lose weight by just not eating any food for the next 10 days. Is
Yeah.
that how we're going to lose the weight? Like,
Yeah.
uh, I could get in better shape by just running 10 miles every day, but I don't have the time for that. So the tangible result is really like, who do I actually want to work with? And then what am I credible? What do I actually have the skill sets required to offer to this person? Uh, and that, like that crystallization of the process really matters, but also comes just through iteration and attempt. Like you can't say, especially like the life coach example you just gave, let's say I'm a life coach that only helps women in North Dakota that have a dog. Well, let me go offer that to women in North Dakota that have a dog. And maybe
Yeah.
they love it and maybe they hate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Generally, what we say for tangible is a results oriented tangibility. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I'll help you lose 20 pounds in 30 days. I'll help you increase your bench press by 30 pounds in 30 days. In the life coaching world, this would be like, I have a friend who we've done some work with that helps men save their marriages from divorce. And so usually a client will come to them where the wife has either said they've wanted a divorce, or they're actively in the process of a divorce, or he knows she's about to serve the papers for a divorce. So he's like, hey, if your wife hates your guts and your marriage is over, let's fix that.
Yeah.
And his desired outcome in what he offers his clients is they no longer get a divorce. So like
Wow.
the measurement of success is like, are the papers over and does she say she still wants to be with you?
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's a very tangible result. And it's also like very clear on who he helps just based on the results he's offering. Another one of my clients, kind of speaking into the client stuff. So we've done stuff with fitness coaches. We've done stuff with finance coaches. We've done some high ticket stuff when it comes to like even investments and property management, e-commerce, across the board with a lot of different programs, coaches, services, softwares. But one of our clients right now, they help people get into investment banking. and I think this is a good example talking about the results tangibility thing, is it's an educational program on like how to get into investment banking. The measurement of success is whether or not you get a paid job in an investment bank. Like that's what they measure success on, is like, do you get the job, yes or no?
Wow.
And what they can argue is investment banking has a 0.7% acceptance rate. So about 7 in 1,000 people get a job in investment banking. So
Wow.
it's a pretty hard industry to get into. They ran a study and a measurement of their client success of like, hey, out of the 2,500 people we've worked with, how many of them got into investment banking? And they had a 95% client success rate.
Wow.
And so it's very clear, like the measurement is like, do you want to be in investment banking? Yes or no? Okay, awesome. Do you want to be 7 out of 1,000 people that get in? Or do you want to be 95 out of 100 that get in? Like,
Yeah.
pick your options.
Yeah.
And so that's when you have that level of specificity, it's very easy for you to just say, hey, do you want that result or this result?
Yeah, and I'm curious too, like what is that disconnect, do you think, where a product or service, a company, they're doing great on Twitter or YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook, but then they post on Instagram and it's crickets essentially. Why is that disconnect there?
Every platform requires a different form of communication. So I would say X, or formerly Twitter, is by far the best place to share ideas. You can split test and you can post with volume at infinitum, and it's just boom, 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 boom. Instagram, by and large, is a social platform. So YouTube, really great for 20-minute, high depth, very long format, expertise building content. Like when you're at a business event, you're not asking for someone's Twitter, you're not asking for someone's Discord. The people that ask for a LinkedIn make me gag because nobody uses LinkedIn. Like this stat might help understand why I love Instagram. The average person spends 15 minutes a day on LinkedIn, or the average LinkedIn user spends 15 minutes a day on LinkedIn. The average user on Instagram spends 2 hours a day on the platform.
What? Oh
Well,
my
that's 8
gosh.
times more time.
Yeah. Wow.
Uh, but Instagram is primarily a social platform. People follow you on Instagram because they want to know what you're working on, where you are in the world, what you're doing, who you're with, why you're doing what you're doing. Instagram is a social platform in the same way that, like, if I want to tell my friends about something, I go on Instagram. If I want to send someone a meme, I do it on Instagram. So Instagram is a social platform. So usually what happens is someone who's been successful on Twitter has generally been successful on Twitter because they've just shared good ideas at volume. They're just like, hey, good idea, good idea, good idea, good idea, perspective, perspective, perspective. But generally, nobody cares who you are. They just care whether or not the piece of content on Twitter is valuable. YouTube's a little bit different. YouTube is, I would say, YouTube is the most similar to traditional media in terms of you're essentially a creator. There's a certain separation between you and the audience. They can't send you a direct message. They can't interact with your stories. The best they can do is like, comment, subscribe. So YouTube is really good if you want to essentially present something to your audience. It's like, hey, I have this thing. You guys should check out this thing. Have this thing. It's more entertainment and education focused,
Yeah.
right? And that's generally what people say is like any good piece of content is either entertaining or educational. Instagram is much more social as a platform. And so Instagram is, you actually want to build up a relationship with your audience. You want to create conversations with your audience. You want to, like Instagram is the platform, in my opinion, where you create what's called top of mind awareness. So top of mind awareness is like when someone thinks of XYZ problem or XYZ solution or result, they think of you. And so Instagram is the platform where we will just shove it down people's throats like, this is who I am, 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 this is who I am. And so it's lifestyle over and over and over. It's desired result over and over and over. It's focus on expertise over and over and over. And usually it's just the same like 3 or 4 points driven home every single day, hundreds of times. And that's where we do Instagram, is building essentially a reputation. So YouTube would be like education, information, like really establishing expertise. Twitter would be just sharing pure ideas. Nobody cares about me at all. Let me just be meritocratic. Instagram is the platform where I want to show who I am, who I am, who I am. I want to build a reputation.
Oh, I love that. I love how many golden nuggets and knowledge bombs you're just dropping, just like boom, boom, boom. Like it's very clear you know what you're talking about. It's fun to listen to. I'm taking my own notes too. Um, and so another thing that's I'm in the podcasting world, and a lot of people like to say, "Oh, why should I start a podcast when there's 5 million other podcasts out there?" And I kind of give the analogy, well, why would you write a book if there's already a bunch of books out there? Is this still a common objection that you run into, like when people come to you like, hey, I think I have an offer, I'm not sure about my offer yet, but there's already too many offers out there, like what's the point, like how will I stand out, like what do you tell them to encourage them or help them work through that?
Yeah. So we don't do a lot of business with people in that kind of early stage, that's 0 to 1, as I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned before.
Yeah.
But I do have a lot of people that will come to me kind of with that same question. And, I would argue like the same thing is true of like, okay, there's a lot of people in good physical shape. Does that mean you should be fat?
Yeah, I like
Like
that.
there's
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that are happily married. So just because they're happily married, do you think you should be lonely and single?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like I look at the world as a very collaborative place.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't see the fact of like, oh, someone else has a podcast. Amazing. Can I be on their podcast? Can they be on mine? Like, oh, someone else wrote a book. Amazing. Can I read their book and get inspiration for my book? Can we
Yeah.
sit down and can they help me write my new book?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I think it's quite silly to expect the world to like. I think it's actually a very selfish perspective of like, oh, there's a bunch of competition out there. Like, why do I care that there's competition if I believe that I'm doing something that only I can do?
Yeah, no, I love that, and that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about the podcasting industry. Is it's like one of the few industries where like you quote unquote don't have to worry about censorship, where you can talk about
Yeah.
whatever you want, however often you want, and things like that. Oh, and actually, so that censorship brings up another topic. So, Facebook and Instagram, they're notorious for randomly banning accounts and shadow banning people and things like that. So, how do you handle that? Have you ever run into that issue with any of your clients? Like, what do you tell people who feel like they get the middle finger from Meta per se?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's real, and it's kind of one of those things that's just lurking in the shadows. Like we can't control the platforms. Like Facebook is a very much an inaccessible black box. Like the amount of time I've spent communicating with Meta support and trying to break through Meta issues that are supposedly there for no reason. And no, there's no problems. We don't see any issues with your account. Like there's no flags on your account, but things are not working the way that they should. It's one of my clients is going through it right now, and it is extremely frustrating to see them going through these problems. Um, Granted, at the end of the day, they're a business too. And so they have an incentive to keep their reputation of like, they don't want to be known. Like, 4chan has a certain reputation, Reddit has a certain reputation, Instagram and Facebook has a certain reputation. And so they have a responsibility to keep users on the platform, especially because that's how they make their money, especially with advertisers. And a part of that is making sure that they're not building a platform in which uh, certain common public social issues are being contradicted. Like if the entire world is feeling extra important about environmentalism or certain political movements, if I'm a platform that is incentivized to keep people on my platform, I would also make sure that certain things are not being communicated.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Now, granted, we work with business owners. And so sometimes, as a business, to run the business, like, hey, why don't you be as opinionated as you want on your podcast or as opinionated as you want in your email newsletter or in your back end of your community? But certain platforms, like, they will just gag you.
Yeah.
And so we might as well talk about something productive and impactful and positive in the world instead of trying to go the route that we know guarantees failure. Where it gets really interesting, and not to go on a tangent, is love him or hate him, what happened to Andrew Tate back in like 2023 when he got banned on every social media, Google, Twitter, like YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and also at the same time, like his bank accounts got shut down.
Yeah.
And it was his like everything across all these different platforms, like all shut him down overnight. That's interesting to me, because then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, this isn't just a like, oh, did your account get shadow banned? Or your performance is dropped? But maybe there is some bigger kill switch that is possible if you start talking about the wrong things. But for the most part, like if you're running a business, you have no business talking about those things anyway. Like
Yeah.
Andrew Tate was talking about these controversial topics because that's what his business ran on. And so if you're running a business on the back of controversial topics, well, then that's kind of the price you pay for doing business, is the risk and the liability of these platforms deplatforming you, shutting you down. And it is something that I think everybody should be aware of. If these platforms do censor you, these platforms can shut you down. And they're all working together, clearly, if there's a button on the back of the system that can kill you across the show.
Yeah,
But for the
do you
most part,
tell people like I know someone who someone was getting jealous that she was a competitive real estate agent, and so they reported her profile as copying someone else's profile, even though she was the original profile. Then that account got permanently shut down, or like another person they didn't like their content, even though and they accused them of CP essentially, even though they were not posting that, and so they got permanently shut down just because someone else like reported them or spammed them as that. Like, is there any measures or any way to like build a relationship with Meta to like make sure that like no random person just randomly reports you to get your account shut down just because they don't like you or they get jealous of you or something? Like, what do you tell people about that?
yeah, there is relationships you can build with Meta reps. There's certain channels that you can take to essentially make sure that things don't happen, especially protecting yourself from strangers or malicious attacks. Like we've had a ton of issues with competitors reporting
Yeah,
channels.
yeah,
Like you start outperforming one of your competitors and suddenly there's a bunch of fake comments on your account, or there's reports going out against your account. So in those cases, there are definitely paths you can take to protect yourself, the same way in any other area of life. Like you have to be ready and willing to stand up. Um, yeah, it does happen. It does happen a surprising amount. And there's the kind of the separation there of like platform controls of like the platform itself, like Meta is shutting you down, versus like malicious user intent
mm-hmm.
of competitors or someone that dislikes you trying to shut you down. And in both cases, like the way that you respond just needs to be appropriate based on who's coming after you, why they're coming after you,
Yeah. So how
and what you can actually.
do you have to like spend a certain amount of money per month to get a Meta rep, or how would people build that relationship with Meta to like make sure they can help protect themselves against those competitive attacks per se?
Yeah, so you can always go through the standard Meta support channels. Like there's
Oh,
always, you just fill out a support request.
those
That
work.
works, but
Really?
no, it works, but it's usually very slow, and it's usually kind of a pain in the behind to
Yeah.
figure this out. The one that has been much more effective in our experience is building a relationship personally with someone that works at Meta. And
Mm-hmm.
so what we'll do is like if we, um, I've spent time, and obviously this is my full-time job, so I have the ability to do this, building a business in this industry, where I'll build relationships with people that work at Meta. The same way that I'm going to solve any other issue in my life is I'm going to go. Usually, it's a people problem.
Yeah.
So I just go through and I will build a relationship with someone that works there, and then I say, hey, I'm having this issue. Can you connect me with this person, or can you press these buttons for me?
Got it. No, it makes sense. Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. Let's see, and then transitioning a little bit to a different subject here. So, for people who want to learn more about what you do, what you offer, like, do you have a book? Do you have a course? I know you talked about your ideal client as someone who's already successful in other platforms, or they want to be better at Instagram. Like, how can people like learn more from you essentially?
Yeah. So if someone wants to just connect with me on social media, the best place to do so is obviously Instagram. You can reach me. Instagram is just the Harrison Coley. So it's just Harrison, Harrison, Coley, Coley. So the Instagram is just at the Harrison Coley. Pretty simple to find me there. And then I put out some YouTube content every once in a while. That's more so just a personal curiosity. And yeah, just send me a DM on Instagram and we'll hop on a call. I'm more than happy to connect with anybody that has come from the show with Andrew.
Oh, I love it. Well, a few questions left here, and then yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode. So, People probably want to know what's the next end game you're working on, Harrison. What does 2026 look like for the rest of the year for you and beyond? What I know for those listening, well, if Harrison's comfortable sharing, I mentioned you're looking for a possible +1 in your life as well. But but tell us more about like the next big end games you're working on at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I do believe that there's that whole thing of like you get dopamine from talking about goals versus achieving
Doing them
goals.
makes
So
sense.
I
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So I try to be like a little careful about how I communicate what I'm working on.
yeah,
But the big things right now, obviously, I'm a 25-year-old man that's currently single. So there's some personal relationship stuff that I'd like to step into as I'm, looking at the next decade of my life. So preparing for that, being the type of man necessary in order to create those types of results in my life would be a big one. I will say on the business side, we're really, really excited about what's happening with artificial intelligence.
yeah,
Existentially, I think I'm having more than one crisis of what the next couple of years look like with AI.
yeah.
But from a business standpoint, I do think it's going to really enable us and our clients to change more lives in a good way, like just spread impact at a scale in which we weren't able to do so before. So really looking forward to that. This year is definitely a lot of systemization and creating a lot more culture. We're in a very good place as a company, and I'm looking forward to like building a stronger culture within the team and creating some more systems that should grow with us through this whole advancement in technology that we're seeing right now.
Oh, I love it. Thank you for sharing some of that. And then I'm curious too, what do you believe are non-negotiable actions and habits to be successful as an entrepreneur or business owner?
I'm gonna give maybe a nuanced answer instead of. So I have a saying: I wear black and white socks every day, and the reason I wear black and white socks every day is I like to say like nothing in life is black and white other than my socks. Uh, so I think it's hard to throw everything into a single non-negotiable for everybody. Generally, I think health is the most important. So I think health comes before any kind of business outcome because you don't want to be rich and sick. Granted, having a ton of money means you can throw more money at your health. So there's always that.
Yeah,
Uh, but in terms of the non-negotiables for successful business people, especially in today's world, like I'm very grateful that I've been able to achieve a certain level of success at a young age, given the fact that I picked an industry that is growing and that has the leverage for a 22-year-old to make millions of dollars.
yeah,
I'm now 25. Um, so I would say like the general non-negotiables for me is like be in a vehicle or be in an opportunity that actually matters to you and an opportunity vehicle that can grow. So create leverage. And then do the work the way that is required to work. And so what I mean by that is like generally across any endeavor in business, discipline and consistency are required. Now there's exceptions to that, right? If you're an artist, if you're creative, but for the most part, consistency and discipline are required. Having a strategy and an approach plan is required. One of my favorite things that I do believe is, relatively a non-negotiable that I advocate for all of my clients, especially on social media, is measuring what matters, right? We always focus, like one of my clients, actually earlier today, we had a meeting and he's like, I want to do 50K cash on Instagram this month. And I'm like, great, what are you at? Because it's the 26th. Like he has 3 or 4 days to get to
yeah.
50K. I'm like, okay, awesome. What are you at right now? And he goes, oh, I don't know. And I say, it's pretty funny how you have a goal that matters to you and you don't even know your current progress. Like
Yeah.
for context, and Andrew, I shared this story with you. I ran 100 miles about 4 or 5 months ago in November. Ran 100 miles.
You walked 100
And
miles.
there was,
But yeah.
yes, I walked 100 miles. Yeah. Took me, yeah, it was not quite a sub 24, but I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to doing another 100. I think it's a really special experience. But so I walked 100 miles, and there was no point in those 100 miles where I wasn't very, very aware of my current distance walked. Like at
Yeah.
mile 65, I knew I was at mile 65. There was
Did
no
that
point in which I
include
was
you
like,
going to get your charger? Did you include that time to walk to get your charger as
no,
well? So it was 106
no.
miles
So
then.
yeah, we got
Yeah.
some bonus miles. Yeah, we got
Yeah.
some bonus miles for sure. Um, But yeah, I think that's important. Is like if you have a goal, you should probably measure current progress, and you should know what number to measure on. Like that's huge for me. Is like have the whole SMART goal thing is really important. Like specific, measurable is really really clear. I think the attainable one is kind of a bunch of hogwash because it doesn't need to be. But I would say like set SMART goals, track your progress, and know what your progress looks like. Be consistent and disciplined in the follow through and persistent action towards the result. Uh, yeah, those would probably be my big non-negotiables. And I hate to give you a vague answer.
No, it's
Um,
well, and if you don't mind, I can kind of summarize your answer. It's like I love that. Like, non-negotiable for success is being healthy, so you can actually enjoy the success, and then also just tracking your progress as well, and like making sure that you know where you're at and where you're going, and rather than yeah, because it's just like everyone's favorite thing to do is like I want to lose more weight, I want to make more money, I want to be a better father. It's just like okay, what does all this mean like tangibly? So I love that. Like.
yes.
Being able to track everything. Yeah, so
Yeah.
this is yeah.
Because
Go ahead.
just on that, like everybody wants to be in good shape and everybody wants to be rich and everybody wants to have a healthy, like, I don't know anybody that wants to be fat, broken, lonely. Like, I've never met anybody that's like, I would prefer to
Well,
be sad,
yeah, yeah,
respectfully speaking.
yeah,
And so then it's just like, well, can I just simplify the process to get there? Right. Like,
hmm
if I eat Domino's and McDonald's every single day, the likelihood of me achieving the result which I desire is pretty low.
yeah,
So let me just not do that. Let me just
yeah.
simplify the process to get where I want to go.
Just eat Taco Bell and Pizza
Um,
Hut instead. You're in the clear. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so much better.
No,
That's exactly it.
I love that. Well, yeah, and then the last, well, maybe we already just said it too, but in case anything else comes to mind. So, oh yes, for those listening in, so remember the best ways to contact Harrison is on Instagram, the Harrison Coley, Coley. He's also on YouTube, and I did see you do have a profile on LinkedIn as well, Harrison. I don't know how much you check that profile, but
Yeah.
it's like you're on LinkedIn too. And so definitely reach out to Harrison. He has a lot of knowledge, loves helping out his clients. Definitely get a hold of him if you want to get in touch with him. But to kind of finish today's interview, Harrison, what's the one takeaway you want someone to have from our interview?
Yeah. Just to clarify, you can find me on pretty much any social platform, social media at Harrison Coley or the Harrison Coley. It's the easiest way to find me. And if you've listened to this whole show, what I would love for you to have as the takeaway is move in the general direction that you think you want to go in. And so in social media, that looks like just start posting. There's so many people that are entrepreneurs, not entrepreneurs. And I look at the difference of like a entrepreneur is waiting to understand what to do, waiting to figure it out, waiting to do this versus just doing the thing. And you will learn so much about yourself and your capabilities and everything else just by doing the thing. So that would be my hope in terms of a takeaway coming out of this is do the thing. And just as we wrap up, I have one more quick 60-second story in terms of doing that thing. I grew up skiing in Colorado. When I was in fourth or fifth grade, I decided I wanted to learn how to snowboard, maybe sixth or seventh grade. I was young. And so I ended up getting a snowboard and I go to the mountain to learn how to snowboard. And I am really bad at snowboarding because it's the first time I've ever been on a snowboard. And so the second day I go out on my snowboard, I bring my friend who's the best snowboarder I know. And I tell him, hey, Jack, I want to learn how to snowboard. Will you teach me how to snowboard? And the second day, I'm just as bad at snowboarding as I was on the first day. But Jack just starts pushing me. And he says, okay, we somehow successfully slid down the mountain from, the top of the baby lift. We're going to go to the top of the big lift now. And I'm like, dude, I'm not ready for that. I don't even know how to make a turn yet. He goes, no, come on. And so he pushes me up to the top of the big mountain. And then we barely survive and we get down to the bottom and he goes, okay, awesome. Are you ready to do your first black? And I'm
No,
like, no, I can't ski a black
no,
diamond. Like, I don't know how to do this. Uh, and so what ended up happening is, number one, I just did the thing. I just went out and said, hey, I want to learn how to snowboard. Let me get a snowboard and go snowboarding. Like, there's nothing to do it. There's nothing to it but to do it. So just go do the thing. And then I surrounded by myself with someone who understood my capabilities and my limits better than I did. Because I had a story in my head that it was impossible for me to go to the top of the mountain. I had a story in my head that it was impossible for me to ski a black diamond. But lo and behold, him forcing me to go do those things is what it created the requirement for me to grow into the type of person capable of doing the thing that I wanted. And so instead of taking 6 months or 2 seasons to learn how to snowboard, it took me like 3 days because I had mentorship and I had expertise that knew my limits better than I knew my own. So those would be the two things that I would advocate as golden nuggets that I hope and pray someone takes from this is just start doing something at a volume. Like just go do the thing as hard as you can, as much as you can, and then go find someone much better at it than you are and have them tell you what to do.
No, it's an amazing story, and it makes me want to remind people again too. Like my favorite Chinese parable is best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time is today. So get started today. Like starting your Instagram account, starting your offers, like going snowboarding. Just do it, and then you can be happy 20 years from now. I'm so glad you did it rather than waiting. So this has been an incredible interview, Harrison. Stay on. We'll chat some more after. But for those listening in, definitely reach out to Harrison. As you can see, he's an incredible guy with a lot of knowledge, ready to help out, and so definitely check him out. So we'll see you all for the next episode, everyone. Thanks. Take care. Bye.